Australia's Greg Norman was in the hunt for a long while, closing to 3 shots from the leader. But his last chance rested with an eagle putt, which was way short. It was then left to Beck and Faxon to fight it out, Faxon hitting the centre of the 10th green with a 9-iron. Beck's approach shot wasn't what he wanted. And his first putt left him plenty to do. But Faxon's shot for the title left Beck with another chance. But Beck hooked his putt to again allow Faxon in. And this time Faxon found the centre of the cup.
It's 4 days since the fire which destroyed the Palm Grove hostel, but the memory of that night is still vivid for those who survived. John O'Shea was first aware of the fire when he felt heat on his face.
Very difficult to see. It was dark. Couldn't switch on the light. The fire stopped me. I breathed in a lot of hot oxygen, hot stuff in my lungs, and couldn't get out the front door.
It's not known exactly how Mr O'Shea escaped. The burns to his face and hands are healing, and he will be released from Dungog Hospital within the next few days. Also surviving the blaze and recovering well is George Mackenzie.
And I woke up later on, and the room was full of smoke, and I heard somebody outside crying, "Fire, fire." So I got up and I put my hand on the door. And the door was very hot, so I didn't try to open it. I knew there'd be something on the other side. So then I jumped out the window, or rather crawled out the window.
Mr Mackenzie and Mr O'Shea will undergo counselling along with the other 26 survivors. Debriefings have also begun for the rescue crews who attended that night. This morning they met with a police psychologist in the Dungog courthouse. But the effect of this tragedy goes far deeper than that. With a population of 2,500, the small community of Dungog has been hit hard. The bowling club has begun a clothing appeal for the victims.
The town has a big heart and they will go on. But it's something that I'm not going to forget, and I don't think a lot of the locals are going to forget in a hurry. No.
8 of the 12 victims have so far been identified. Their names are expected to be released within the next few days. At the site on Main Creek Road northwest of Dungog, police are still sifting through the blackened remains of the timber building. Today, proprietor Anne Wills was taken back to the site to help police in their investigations. With the building totally destroyed, finding a cause to this fire is extremely difficult. During the next 2 days, fire officers and scientific police will be combing through the site, but there is that possibility they may never know what caused this fire. Once police and fire officers have completed their reports, State Coroner Kevin Waller will begin his inquiry into the fire. It's expected that regulations dealing with overnight patient supervision will be examined. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
The depth of public outrage to the sacking of the Hunter Area Health Board and the planned closure of the Wallsend Hospital at the end of this month was measured by an overflowing meeting of union delegates and community leaders in Newcastle. Some had come from meetings with Wallsend Hospital's administrative staff and had heard of retrenchments and relocations, as well as voluntary redundancy packages for the 500 staff employed there. Others spoke of the mine workers' input to the hospital.
It's a hospital that's been built on sweat, blood and tears.
A strategy for the retention of the Wallsend Hospital will come as a two-pronged attack using public support and union muscle, and will be staged with a march and rally at the hospital next Wednesday.
We're doing such things as calling on the ambulance service not to relocate patients, We're calling on doctors not to relocate their services. We're calling on the service providers not to start moving anything out, and we'll be looking at pickets on the hospitals. We'll be conducting a campaign to try and jam the Minister's fax machine.
Concern for maintaining maximum health services in the area has also been voiced by local government. The Mayor of Lake Macquarie, Ivan Welsh, will put a submission to Council tonight calling for a meeting of all local government leaders to take place as soon as possible, as a demonstration of regional solidarity for the retention of adequate health services, and to offer support to planned demonstrations. Surrounding the impending closure of Wallsend Hospital is speculation that the University of Newcastle would step in to find a use for the buildings. A spokesperson for the university confirmed today that a former member of the now sacked Hunter Area Health Board had approached the university for expressions of interest in the site. However, he added, no further consideration had been given to the matter. Meanwhile, also flying into a storm of uncertainty about local medical services, both staff at the John Hunter Hospital and at the Helicopter Rescue Service have voiced their concern over a doubling of charges by the Health Department for helicopter transfers between hospitals. The higher fees will force hospitals to rely more heavily on road transport for patients and reduce the number of helicopter flights within an area extending from Gosford to Port Macquarie, Tamworth to Merriwa. Andrew Lobb reporting for NBN News.
Nadine Cardo delivered twins last Friday. The midwife who assisted her during labour was one of the women who monitored her progress while she was pregnant.
It's not like a stranger, so you haven't got, these people that you don't even know and you're thinking they're telling you what to do, where you've got someone that you know and they're telling you helping you, that makes you feel a lot better.
Each month, 60 women who attend the public antenatal clinic at the John Hunter Hospital take part in the research project. Half of them are looked after by a team of 7 midwives. They meet the mother during her pregnancy, and one of them assists her at the birth.
We're hoping that the women who receive this kind of positive support from a midwife throughout pregnancy and their labour will be less likely to have caesarean births, for instance, and less likely to need operative intervention.
There is no 8-hour day for these midwives. They work to a less predictable timetable, which allows for continuity in the labour ward.
Being able to give a continuous care in labour with one woman and not share myself between 3 other ladies in labour has been it's an incredible experience for the midwife, and I think from the reaction from the mums, I'm sure that we're actually providing a good service.
The research study will continue until October next year. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Normally a hive of activity, the house with no steps came to a standstill when workers downed tools to welcome home their Olympic heroes. Joseph Walker, Michael Atchison, Trudy Hancock and Dean Papworth all performed with distinction, and they received certificates of merit and a standing ovation. Joseph came home with 4 gold medals, but says they don't rate among the highlights of the trip.
Probably just competing, meeting a lot of new friends.
All 4 were quick to join their workmates back on the job. With the months of training now finally over, this probably seems like a vacation.
I get up about 4 o'clock in the morning when I train in the morning, and I train from 5 till 7 and get to work here at 7:30, work from 7:30 to 3:30, and then I go training again at 4 in the afternoon for 2 hours.
The turn of a key opened the door for a new future for Mount View's 800 students. A $13 million complex with 120 classrooms replaces a series of portable buildings which have been there since the start of the school 6 years ago. Students and teachers have begun moving equipment into the new building. Parents are also helping with cleaning chores. Formal classes should start next Wednesday, no doubt a time when these youngsters will be happy to go to school.
This densitometer allows doctors to screen people for osteoporosis, a disease that causes bone thinning. Older women are more at risk of developing the disease. If they have osteoporosis, their bones are more brittle, and in a fall, they're more likely to sustain fractures of the spine, hip or wrists. By the time people reach mid-30s, they have developed their maximum bone density. Doctors say we can reduce the rate at which we lose bone.
Hormone replacement therapy in postmenopausal women is clearly effective.
Other measures include exercise, a balanced diet and a daily intake of calcium. The densitometer machine is used for research purposes. It's not widely available to screen women for the disease, but doctors from Newcastle Osteoporosis Group are studying whether it could be beneficial, particularly for postmenopausal women.
If we can predict by your mineral density that you're going to have a higher rate of fracture, then perhaps we should target you as an individual person for one or more forms of therapy to reduce the rate at which you lose bone.
However, making screening available to everyone may not be cost efficient.
We might spend a great deal of money screening the whole population and actually not greatly reduce the level of fractures.
The research study into the feasibility of widespread screening will be completed next year. Their recommendations will be presented to the Australian Institute of Health in Canberra. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
The NBN Television Choir has fostered some of Newcastle's best choristers, but the woman behind the voices for the past 3.5 years is leaving.
I'm going to Tallahassee, Florida in the United States of America to study choral conducting at the Florida State University.
While the choir, 3-time victors of this year's Newcastle Eisteddfod, will undoubtedly miss Anne's talents, she'll be back.
I'm very interested in choral conducting, so I'm going to study for my Master of Music degree. I'm studying with a man called Rodney Eichenberger, who's the guru of choral conducting. He knows everything there is to know, I hope, and he's going to give some of those tricks to me so that I can come back and share what I've got with other people in the Hunter Valley.
Ambulance officers will fight the closure of Wallsend Hospital by refusing to transport patients to the John Hunter, Royal Newcastle and Mater hospitals.
We're doing it to show our outrage at the closure of Wallsend Hospital, to support fellow health workers and to press home the point that the health systems and services in the Hunter have been badly underfunded and badly done by for many years now.
The proposed action by the ambulance drivers is a last-ditch effort to save Wallsend District Hospital, but their show of support is not appreciated by all the staff at the hospital.
It really would be an irresponsible act on the part of the ambulance. We're going to need all the help we can in making the move for our patients as painless and smooth for them as possible.
Dr Jump says that if the ambulance officers won't move patients, they will have to be transported in the hospital's minibus or in cars.
It would be very difficult to move disabled people that way. Patients who are elderly, who've had strokes, patients in coronary care who really need the utmost care.
According to the ambulance union, these measures will not be necessary because they believe the hospital will remain open. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
St Mary's debating team from Scone argued the affirmative case. Gateshead Primary had the unenviable task of arguing against the statement. It was all part of the final day of Education Week, which has seen students from across the Hunter showing the public what education in the 90s is all about. The adjudicators gave St Mary's the verdict. In conjunction with Education Week, the annual vocal and choral Eisteddfod at City Hall.
Harrigan has been in sensational form since his return from injury and has been eagerly sought by western suburbs, East and Brisbane. But today he was glad the long ordeal about his immediate future was resolved in a 2-year contract with the Knights.
It's great news and I'm very happy, and I suppose also a little bit relieved to finally sign up and to get myself settled, so I'm very happy here.
Was there any doubt that you were going to leave the Newcastle Knights?
Mate, originally I was considering it, but mate, as time went on, I'm a Newcastle boy, and I think the Knights are going forward over the next couple of years anyway, and mate, as time went on, I was pretty confident of staying.
The future looks bright for Newcastle as Bradley Godden is just one of a host of youngsters impressing everyone, and his debut in first grade last week was a ripper. The boy from Black Hill didn't count out the possibility of making the top grade this year.
I think you always got to aim for first grade, and I did a fair bit of work in the off-season, and just hoping the chances would come, and it finally did, yeah.
Also starting to make an impression after a slow start is centre Adrian Brunker, whose defence has picked up to complement his attacking skills.
Probably just all come together, a bit like Ashley Gordon last year, getting a few passes coming my way, so it's coming out the backs a lot more too, which has definitely helped me out. It's good.
The Knights will be out to gain maximum points against the Roosters after the last second 7-all draw earlier in the year.
The Australian Navy ensign was unfurled and the ship's company exercised its invited right of entry to the city. It's an old military tradition that calls for an armed force to march through the streets, and today the residents were out to greet them. Many of the ship's personnel have been involved in community work, and marching in step to the fleet band treated the public to a parade. Their right briefly challenged, they were allowed past to take the salute of Rear Admiral Ken Doolan and Mayor Welsh. The Tobruk will be open for inspection tomorrow afternoon. Morisset turned out in force for its public school's centenary parade. Students and teachers, past and present, were only too keen to show up for roll call on a Saturday. The school began with 1 room, 1 teacher and 6 students. It's now located at a different site and, along with the high school, has 2,000 students. Many were fitted up for a new uniform, while others made do with their old. Celebrations continue over the weekend.
Hundreds of Hunter TAFE teachers joined today's strike, adding their voice to the wave of dissatisfaction across the state. They say last Wednesday's decision not only fails to satisfy their demands, it actually leaves many teachers worse off than before.
The decision that the Industrial Commission handed down last Wednesday in fact reduces a significant number of TAFE teachers' pay, actually reduces their pay. It will in fact result in the loss of many full-time teachers' positions and the loss of work for many part-timers, teachers for whom it's their only source of income.
Hunter teachers voted overwhelmingly in favour of the 2-day strike in September. The meeting also recommended that rolling stoppages follow that 48-hour strike. From today, teachers will also refuse to work outside their normal hours and contribute their own time for students or the development or maintenance of TAFE programs and equipment.
They're just going to work now to their what the time says on their program, and what they get done then, well and good. What they don't get done will simply have to wait.
The meeting also passed a vote of no confidence in the ACTU. Alison Peters, NBN News.
Just 7 months ago, Fred Watkins' drive to establish a golf course at Kincumber seemed headed straight down the political fairway. He could count member for Gosford Chris Harcher as a playing partner and had the verbal support of the Premier. He now finds himself in a bureaucratic bunker.
No matter who I ring, they seem to be passing the buck from one department to the other, and it's just not getting anywhere at the moment.
To make the dream course a reality, Gosford City Council will have to lease the land from the Public Works Department. The stumbling block is the rent, yet to be officially set, but the subject of some astounding rumours.
The most expensive of those is $6,000 a year. So where do we get off paying $104,000 a year for a community project?
Other Central Coast courses have been built on Crown land. The Public Works Department has never been confronted by this type of proposal. The red tape is threatening to strangle the project.
Governments have to follow administrative procedures, and what we have to do is to organise it in such a way that the public works requirements are satisfied. I can't give you an idea as to what it should actually be, but I can give you a guarantee that, acknowledging its community use, we will make the rental appropriate.
Nine months ago, Brian Jones was in a serious car accident. Emergency surgery left him alive and well, but without his left thumb.
Oh, you couldn't pick nothing up in your hand, try and pick a screwdriver or something up. You just couldn't do it. It was just so awkward.
Doctors at the John Hunter Hospital convinced Brian to undergo another operation, radical surgery that would see his big toe grafted onto his hand to replace the missing thumb. It's the first time such a complex operation has ever been attempted in the Hunter.
There's a generation of surgeons coming through training in plastic surgery and orthopaedic surgery who are developing expertise in microvascular surgery, and it's simply taking time for that generation to fill up the gaps outside of the capital cities.
Dr. John Newton had never even seen such an operation, but he directed a team of 7 throughout the gruelling 13-hour procedure. There were some dramatic moments when surgeons were forced to perform an emergency vein graft.
Initially the blood went through, and then the artery went into such severe spasm that it wouldn't allow any blood to pass through, and we couldn't relieve that with a variety of medications.
The secondary graft was a success, and Brian's future is now looking bright. It's hoped intensive physiotherapy will give him full use of his new thumb within 6 months.
I like them. I heard it's good.
Yeah, I'm told you went for your first walk after the operation today. How did that go?
Oh, it went well. Yeah, I thought I'd wobble everywhere, but I just walked straight, just with a little bit of a limp.
Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News.